No.
Yes. Right.
So you guys need an alignment, not coaching.
The coaching industry has exploded.
We want to be better. We want to move forward and keep growing.
Uncoachable is going to be released every single month with a new coach, a new idea, a new approach, and a new takeaway. Hi, I'm John.
I'm Rhys,
And he's uncoachable.
Hello and welcome to Uncoachable. My name is Rhys and with me is John.
Hello, hello.
And we are joined by Dorothy Spence from Imaginal Ventures. Dorothy, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
You took the time to listen to some of the episodes before you came, so we really appreciate that.
And you still chose to be here.
Yeah.
And I still came with a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's good. We'll have plenty to talk about then. So,
Actually, I'd love to flip this. So she asks us all the questions.
Yeah,
and we
yeah,
just
exactly.
we don't have the answers, I'm afraid.
for our listeners, could you, first of all, kind of give them a little bit of a bio, a bit of a background about who you are and what you do and why you do it, I guess?
I give them background.
Could you just introduce yourself,
Sure.
essentially? Yeah.
Hello, my name is Dorothy Spence, and I'm the founder of Imaginal Ventures and Imaginal Platform. So one is a professional service firm, which is what we're going to be talking about today, and the other one is a technology platform. And so I guess I have a long history and background in both business advisory, entrepreneurship, and coaching. So I think that might be why you asked me to come in. And I have a bit of an unusual background. I call my background Eat, Pray, Love, based on the movie and the book. And the eat part was a very linear, analytical part. I have an engineering degree in specialization in biomedical engineering. I have an MBA, and my life was going down a very linear, analytical path in, somewhat untraditional field for a woman at that time. And then started my very first business. So my first entrepreneurial venture, I was co-founder and CEO of a large health technology company that we grew across Canada. I had another co-founder. She was also a biomed engineer with 2 young children, an MBA. And we did this to have more flexibility in our life. And so we did that for 7 years. It was a really extremely intense, high-profile journey that concluded in a restructuring of the company when the tech bubble burst and a really big, massive implosion. And so at that time, turning to the pray part, I decided to turn inward. I stayed in my living room as my husband and children went off to their domains. And I really pondered, what is this about? Who am I? Why do I exist? And more importantly, this whole question of leadership, because I had, through this course, really seen some people who were very comfortable in their skin and really comfortable and really inspired, a real inspirational leadership style. And I had worked with some people who really made me really uncomfortable. And I was like, I know all the theories, the MBA theories and all those things, but I don't think that's where the answer to the question for me exists. I think it sits deeper inside. So I did my very first coaching certification in Canada, Ontario. It was a 4-year program, very intense. 28 years ago when coaching was not a thing, it was really the beginning of what has become a really big industry. And I really started to find more questions in that discovery, because one of the things that anybody who is taking a coaching certification will tell you is really what it is a self-discovery process. And it's only through a self-discovery process that you can really help and facilitate others in that process. Because if you don't embody it, then people smell it, sense it, and no, that doesn't work. So I guess at the height of my pray part was the study of yoga. So one thing about me is when I study with somebody, I have to study with the best in the world. It's like, why would I bother with mediocrity if I can study with the master? So at one point, I'm sitting on the top of the Himalayas, meditating, going, I don't think this is what I'm fully meant to do in life. I really miss business. I'm a business junkie. And so that really started what I would say is this final part the Prey part, which was really bringing together this study of the mind, of human nature, of consciousness with business. And so that's been this fusion. And the beginning of that journey was I worked with a global business advisory company based out of London, England. And we're kind of like the McKinsey of the SME market, private enterprise market. There was 200 of us, highly trained, kind of like the Navy SEALs. We traveled around the world. And that was really amazing. And that's probably had the biggest influence on my desire to, of course, create my own thing based on that background and this desire to really promote this concept that business can be something completely different than our traditional models, which I'm really I feel like have run their course, and there's something more to offer.
Wow.
So that was Imaginal Ventures started.
I don't know where to start.
It's like a movie.
This, right?
And I look just like Julia Roberts.
Right. And I'm picturing you on the Himalayan mountains coming to an epiphany. From the education, from an engineer to an MBA to the Prey moment where you've turned inwards to the love element, there's a couple of things I'm thinking about. One was, of course, if you ever find yourself in a room and you're the smartest person, you're in the wrong room, we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Right? So the
Bet on that.
there was...
Am I always in the right room?
Right. We reached out to you for a couple of reasons. One is what you're currently doing for other individuals, other organizations, the purpose-led piece, which is sort of what you're talking about, is the shift on the way businesses can be run. There was a book that I think you had recommended as well, Profit First, which seems to have a different perspective on this. We work with B Corps often that talk about people, planet, and profit. So profit's not a dirty word. And having the MBA, you're able to balance a lot of these complex thoughts. But you help facilitate other coaches. You actually help people become better leaders, better trainers, and put in systems in place as well, I believe, right?
Right.
What's your guiding principle for helping others become better coaches?
My guiding principle in everything that I do in business is this essential belief that businesses are kind of this fictional thing that we've made up. So businesses don't transform. There's no such thing as a business to transform. It's people who transform, and leaders go first. So the thread through everything, the guiding principle, as you call it, which is nice, I think I'll use that, is that it starts with personal transformation. Yep. And it's only through personal transformation that the business will transform, because inevitably we all hit some sort of a wall in terms of our personal transformation, our challenges, our motivation, our energy, our passion, the reason why we get out of bed in the morning to go to this thing that is a really challenging thing to do.
When you say personal transformation, what does that look like? Does that mean that people just like shift their focus in life, or is it kind of like almost like a personality develop, or do they just see the world in a slightly different way? What does that kind of look like in a more like practical sense, I guess?
Yeah, so in my mind, I'm always thinking about this in terms of levels of consciousness. And I seem to, in my mind, that just the way my mind works, I'm always like tracking it based on systems or something. And so I call it a different perspective, which I would also call a different level of consciousness. And so when you elevate that level of consciousness and you start to see things in a different way, so you start to become aware of the patterns in your life, what keeps reoccurring, what themes keep showing up in your personal life, when you actually take a step back and look at what's happening in your business, you will see the same limitations and problems. And, I love when April was talking to you, because money is one of the most tangible ways, because, business is pretty intangible. So a lot of this is just really thought processes, and how do you make that tangible, and how do you make sense of all of this? So I would say that money is a really great personal context that also translate over to the business context. So say you have that scarcity mindset around your relationship with money, and we all have a gnarly knot around money.
Yeah.
that will show up in your business on the choices that you make, whether they're conscious or not.
So it's almost kind of like having a moment where you're rising above your day to day and your mindset being like bogged down by these kind of decisions and these thoughts. You're able to kind of look across everything and go, no, I get it. So when you talk about like level of consciousness, it's literally like stepping above, having a view of yourself as a whole, and then kind of moving forward from there.
Like a spiral staircase.
Yeah.
You've gone up a few levels in the spiral and you're looking down and you can see it, but you can see it in a different way.
And like, how do you do that with people in a business context then? Like, how much time do you have to spend with someone to do that? Because it doesn't sound easy. There's a lot of people who could do with that kind of step up, if you know what I mean.
We call this third-party language, Rhys. Are you saying you could do with that?
I don't know.
I
think I benefit from
a
a total lack of self-awareness.
Yeah,
so.
I think you need an out-of-body experience. You need to step away for a second,
exactly,
and reassess what's important.
I think one of the practical ways to look at it is looking at your level of energy. So whenever you're having a fear response, it usually means that you're deficient on one of the bottom 3 levels of consciousness. I say bottom, I mean they're necessary. So there's survival, relationships, and self-esteem. So whenever you're lacking energy, it usually means that there's some unconscious fear response to a psychological need or a physical need that you don't feel is being met. So usually one of the first clues that's really easy to do is say, what is going on with me in terms of the energy that I have in my life today, in the business? And you will know that there's varying times where your energy is high, when you're really plugged in, you're in flow. And there's other times that you're like, why am I doing this? How do I sell this business? And those are times when you just really take a look and say, what is this fear that is coming up in me? And I think that's a really powerful thing. And how can I just see it, which is 80% of it, and just really trust in what is happening here in order to move forward. So that's a simple way of stepping into that 4th level of consciousness, which is transformation, which takes you out of the basic needs and the fear response and moves you into the higher levels of consciousness, which is about things like purpose and meaning and making a difference and serving humanity.
Yeah, when you're using phrases like level of consciousness, everything, it sounds like it's very informed by like the yoga experience or the kind of sitting on the mountain. Mm-hmm. Is that where a lot of that comes from?
My deep understanding and interest in it comes from that. I also studied a system from the UK called the Barrett's Value System, which Richard Barrett, also an engineer and studied Vedic traditions, created this whole system, which totally makes sense to me. And that's actually that type of framework and looking at psychological development and levels of consciousness was the basis of how we created all of the methodologies for the conscious business operating system.
The conscious business operating system? That sounds really... I don't know. It sounds like software. What exactly is that?
It's funny. I'm actually taking notes.
Are you taking notes?
and I'm trying to also to keep up as well. So I love the. So I'm curious on the levels of consciousness. I'm curious to know how many there are. I like the
and
last
how far
one.
You've got left to go.
Well, I like the last one that you left off on, which is sort of the purpose and being able to give back. So it's that altruistic end objective, which gets away from the base ones. When you talked about operating out of fear, typically you don't accomplish a lot in that stage. And so I haven't thought of them as levels of consciousness or different perspectives. A lot of the times it's motivators in different situations and different times in your life. And when we work with teams and individuals, we always try to figure out those motivators. What are you motivated by? And then the why behind them. So when you said, what excites you? Why do you show up with energy? We had conversations about sometimes it was chasing the dopamine rush or the sugar and the short-term psychological feeling of feeling good. But this is a lot deeper that you're talking about. This is a lot broader that has a bit of a formula or layers to going from a fear state to an altruistic state.
Fear to love.
fear to love.
I mean, my guiding principle that I never talk about, but let me start by talking on a podcast about it, is really about shifting consciousness globally in business from fear to love. And love is a very powerful energy. And I do want to say that not only are there these 7 levels of consciousness, which is really where do you place your awareness and your attention, but there's also levels of psychological development. So, for example, survival is from when you're born to when you're 2 years old and you're dependent on your parents. Then the next level is from 2 to 7. And how old are your children?
Mine are 8, 10, and 13.
Okay.
19 and 21.
Okay, great. So that second level of relationship is, getting the love, the caring, sense of belonging. That's from the time you're about 8. And that actually sets down the fundamental operating system of who we are as a human being. And then we spend the rest of our life saying, do I believe in that or not? So your fundamental operating system of all of your children is now laid down. So whatever you did up until this point.
That's a scary thought.
It is very scary. And then the next level is up until you develop that kind of executive function of your mind, of your brain. And that can be 25 to 28. So those are those basic needs levels. And that's when professional and, figure out your partner, maybe, not now anymore, but those types of things, efficiency, effectiveness. And then that fourth level, that transformation level is your 30s. And that's what we call the goop. This is when you decide what beliefs you believe in and what you let go of. And the reason why I'm taking my time going through this is as a group of human beings, we do the same. Our businesses follow exactly that same type of.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
we're a 5-year-old company.
Well,
So
I don't know.
we're
Well,
in
no,
our
it's
infancy.
more the number of people. How big is your team?
6 people.
Okay, so you're more around that sense of belonging, that second level, because the human dynamics is actually what is the critical part of how you organize yourselves. It's how do you relate to each other? How do you communicate? It's the human dynamics will drive more of whether you grow or whether you stay the same or whether you decline than business mechanics. The human dynamics is the secret sauce. And so these 4th, 5th, and 6th levels are a little bit beyond that. And we've created a roadmap for that energetic journey of a business based on how human beings psychologically develop, and therefore how businesses psychologically develop.
Interesting.
So it's almost like the business's brain, which is like a mishmash of all the people involved.
That's right.
So when you talk about energy, you're talking about relationships, essentially.
Yeah, and communications and how you make decisions and choices in the business and how you do anything.
And you,
So
sorry.
I was thinking the same thoughts, I think. Man.
I don't know, I'm only level 2.
I'm immature and I'm really struggling to figure out where I fit on this. But what's interesting is it's not just about you and I or just me.
Yeah.
It's about the team and the rest of us needing support and direction and help. And how do we work together as an ecosystem in the business to be able to then take the business somewhere?
Yeah, and usually around 5 people. What we talk about is the key thing here is alignment. So as co-founders, there's some reason, there's some connection that you two have. There's some set of values, personal values, that you have agreed that coming together and doing this thing together, you have some sort of shared vision, way you want to do it, probably humor, fun might be, one that you have in
She's
common.
pointing at you, Rhys.
Very serious.
Right? Yeah.
Diversity, I don't know, whatever that is.
We don't know either.
Right. Well, usually you don't at this stage because these are still very implicit. But it's the important thing is as you grow to make it more explicit and consciously shaped, because there is a reason why the people on your team come to work here. There's something that they're attracted to that is at the core of who you are. So you each have your personal values, but there's also there's a set of values, whether they're you know them or not, they're here. And I can tell you, it would be very helpful for you to understand those, because that will probably drive, just doing that will probably drive your business growth more than anything. When you're more explicit about what are your personal values and what are your business values. I'm gonna give you a funny story that really, when I started to really learn this and understand this, and I reflected back in my first business, I had a VP of sales who was, of course, a good friend, because that's who you hire usually at the beginning. And she came to me one day and she's like, "We're not moving forward on this project." I'm like, "Why not?" And she said, "Well, it doesn't align with my personal values." And I'm sitting there going, what personal value was that? And then I'm thinking, we're hooped here, because every one of us is walking around with our own value system, and there's nothing explicit that we said that guides decision making in this business. And even though that's really good that she took the initiative, that wouldn't have been my choice and the way that I would have done it. So those are examples of how important that is. When you're a team of 5, is a really good time.
Is that a story? But is that a good thing that she did that, or a bad thing that she did that?
Well, it's neither. It was just an example of how important values are for decision making. From a cash flow perspective, it was terrible.
Oh,
and I didn't agree with it. Yeah. It was really a good thing because I learned a lot from it.
So that's why I asked the question. Is often, as a small organization, we are often driven by revenue, client direction, and then excellence and deliverable. And so that sort of, it's kind of product market fit thinking, but revenue kind of starts the dialogue to be able to grow the team and to be able to have a value that stops revenue. There's 2 things that go through my mind. One is that stalls the organization. 2 is, which I think may be part of your point, which is those shared values. If it's the same across the organization, it then becomes the right decision. We all can nod our head and say, that's why she made that decision, because it's part of the shared value, which Rhys and I have not sat down and said, these are our shared values. We're going to walk away from this business or target this particular industry or make sure that we approach things from a common perspective. But
which ties into what you said about the stage of what our business is. Really. It's implied rather than structured or formalized.
Right.
You keep saying more donuts in the office, and I'm like, we should...
Yeah. We should have them just like one of those monthly subscription, but like a weekly donut subscription.
right. Yeah,
those are values I'm willing to stand by. So.
I love that. I love that story. I like stories that are it's tough for me to get my head around a VP of sales saying no to revenue because it's not part of my shared or core value or belief structure.
I've been in that situation before where we've turned down a contract because
I've walked away
didn't
from
feel comfortable.
We've walked away from business, and so I like that part that starts to talk about. You said this earlier. Businesses don't really exist; people do, or people are what make up the business, and therefore values are what drives us to a degree. And then it gets into the shared values. What do we agree with? What's the direction? All that kind of stuff, which may be our first step to say.
Yeah. And it's definitely implied because we never really argue on stuff. We both tend to come to the same conclusion as well, which is.
I think we argue all the time.
Well, I thought you were joking.
And then you come to your conclusion, and I'm like, all right, fine.
I just steamroller you. We hardly ever argue.
Yes, you're right, Rhys.
Well, and then it, it's exhausting, all the decisions we make every single day in a business. Just decision fatigue. Just if you have a clear way that everybody agrees on how you're going to make these choices, which you get thousands of them every day, it just really frees up energy too.
Yeah. Some of the language you use and everything, it makes me think about, obviously you talked about meditation. Something you do see a lot on LinkedIn is people talking about meditation as part of their like daily routine and business. Is that part of it? Is there an element of that? Or is that just, I think that's quite a personal thing that not everyone is going to do necessarily. But what are the practical ways that people can kind of like try and like open their mind a bit and kind of rise above the minutiae of the day-to-day to kind of like have that wider perspective?
Yeah, I think meditation is just a personal choice. I don't know if there's any particular one formula. I think it's just really a personal choice on whatever that is that helps you stabilize your mind and have clarity and really get out of the weeds. I think that's the key thing is what do you need to get out of the weeds?
Yeah.
And how do you get out of a fear response? Because I think if you really sit back and look at how many decisions you've made, I'd like you to kind of take an inventory of how many of them were based on fear. You'll be shocked.
Especially like if you read the news, if you're then kind of like getting sent bills, you know, there's plenty of stimulus that are going to generate fear in a lot of people most of the time. I think
I am struggling with it so fear of failure is a big one that I try to tackle. But I still feel like most of my decisions are on the other side where I'm actually making a decision going towards success or opportunity or the optimistic approach. The why not, let's go for it, is that oblivious, braver approach, which I think he and I have in common, which is just why not? Let's go for it. And I don't know if that's out of a fear state or whether it's out of an optimistic blind oblivion.
Yeah.
Let's right. So there's the enthusiasm, and from that we get passion on making, or we get passionate about making decisions in those type of ecosystems, which is weird. So I don't know. I when you ask the question about think about how many decisions in a day that you make out of fear, my gut is less than I would assume. I don't feel I operate in a fear state, but I don't know. I mean, I've read about the croc brain and all of the fundamental things that you typically do to avoid things that could hurt you that may be subconscious.
Well, you want to play a little game then?
Uh-oh.
let's go for it.
All right.
Let's talk about a choice that is sitting in front of both of you right now.
All right.
Well, should we think personally of a choice that we've got to make soon, or
Business
choice? Okay.
There is one that we're talking about in regards to operational expenses, where
Yeah.
we're actually looking at investing in certain things.
Yeah.
And it's just a great point because it proves me wrong again, which is the investment in operational assets allow us to do better. Mm-hmm. The cost element to it is looking at cash flow, trying to understand how can we actually afford to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. And so when I said I'm optimistic, let's go towards doing something like that, we can't afford to do or make those decisions at the moment, I don't think.
Yeah.
So that is a decision out of fear, I guess.
But
Right?
but is like the goal is like product excellence. Like, oh, we can really deliver excellence if we do this. But will we be able to afford it? Will we regret it 3 months later? Mm-hmm. Which is fear.
Right. So what happens if we make all these bad decisions? The business goes under, and so.
But I'm one of those people as well sometimes where I find fear a really good motivator.
Fear is a very powerful motivator.
And I found that
So's
sometimes
love.
I've done my best.
Love is much stronger.
But I've done my best work out. It kind of kicks, it's like a kick up the
does.
arse.
Oh,
and it makes me go,
like a deadline.
the only way I can master this is by applying myself 10 times more than I was right now. So is that a good thing or a bad thing?
So, Rhys, in my experience, and I can only talk about my personal experience, that led to burnout in my first business. And so my experience is when you go on those dopamine, cortisol kind of rushes, that will eventually have an impact on your health.
Yeah. Oh, no, without a doubt. Like dog chasing cars, that tends to be my MO. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I need enlightenment is what you're saying.
I'm not sure what you need. I'm not here to tell you anything that you need. I'm just sharing my story.
No, exactly. Actually, that was my point about meditation. Actually, with like LinkedIn, is I see people have these really insane schedules, and they're like, I get up at 5:30, I meditate for an hour, I then run 10 miles, and I feel like even that looks like really off. I'm like, this is a kind of superhuman schedule people go to, and then but I always have time for kind of meditation. I'm like, how? You must be exhausted when you wait. If I got up at 5:30 and sat there and did that, but I'm one of those people who's like, I've actually tried to do it, but I really struggle with like clearing my head, and it is a big personal battle with kind of the being slightly neurodivergent in that way. So, how do you? Are there any kind of like practical ways that people can like clear their head if they are like in that burnout cycle? Or do you have any suggestions? Can you help me? Can you say I'm joking?
Rhys, can I ever help you? The fastest way to change your physiology is to change your breath. So that is the connection between your head and your body. So when you're up in your head too much, and we all know what that feels like, running a cash flow projection in your head, trying to make these choices about what to invest in, what not to. It's really, it's taking that moment to sit back. You're in a beautiful part of downtown Halifax. Get out of the office, go for a walk, just clear your head. You cannot make stable decisions when your body's in a reactive state. So, for example, when we talk in the conscious business operating system, we talk a lot about conscious choice. And there's 3 levels of how you make a choice. And the first level is reactionary. So it's a rush. It's an adrenaline rush. It's like, wow, there's a fire and I can put that out and then I'm going to feel real good because, I am the chief fire outer in this office. And so you get acknowledged, rewarded. It's good. And then there's another side to that. The second part is what you were just talking about on social media when you see all these things, and that's being externally referenced. So, this looks like what I should do, and this is how I should grow my business. This is how I should live my life because I see this on social media, or I'm comparing myself, and that is a fool's game because there's always going to be somebody better and there's going to be somebody worse. So just going, okay, this feels like this is a lot of external referencing on how I'm making this choice in my life.
Yeah.
And then the third one is that conscious choice where your body's stable, you have a really sense of who you are and what you want this business to be about and how you want to be in relationship with all the people and all the people you connect with in your podcast. Like, you guys have not only 5 people, but you have a lot of people that you have these fun conversations with or these meaningful conversations with. So there's a lot that you could do with that. But those need to be conscious choices. And 90% of our thoughts are unconscious. So it is some work to just really say, well, how can I become aware of what are those deeper things? And it usually means being quiet, being a little bit more still.
Right.
And, it's like, it's basic human biology here.
Yeah.
It's tough. So I hate the comparative.
Oh,
Measuring yourself against something else. But we are also very competitive people. And if you're competitive people, typically you're competing against something else, not usually just yourself. So there's a weird structure in that comparative versus competitiveness. I do love the notion of the pause and the gratitude that allows you to say, let me reflect on where I am, where I want to go, what do I have, what is amazing around me, and have the gratitude for recognizing that. We don't stop often enough. But in regards to Rhys's question about, teach me how to do it, he doesn't tell anybody this, but he goes for long, slow walks with his dogs twice a day.
Perfect.
In the woods.
There you go.
I do. I live in the woods,
and I guarantee
that's where I need to be.
To get out of the weeds, he has to go to the
That's
woods,
it.
right?
Like, because John's like, you should live downtown. The commute's easier. It's like, no, I like driving out into the woods. And like last night, I was like midnight maybe, and I went out on the front porch, and because they said the northern lights might be visible. I didn't see the northern lights, but there's no light pollution where I live, and it was just crickets and stars, and like I could not live in the city where you can hear drunk people walking home, and it drove me mad. But I need that. I do need that, and that's kind of where I do find it. So
that's it. That's your meditation.
And I think
you officially do not have to meditate.
Yes,
you
thank
have
God.
it.
Everyone told me I should.
But
I find it really hard.
It gets into the so he's talking about the scheduling piece, which is the steps or the plans or get up at 5:30 and do this. We had somebody talk about not wanting to set their alarm and just to be able to wake up whenever they wake up. And part of the solution to be able to do that is go to bed a little bit earlier and don't go to bed drunk or whatever it is. So the next morning you are rested and you're able to start and move forward. So it's easier to achieve some of your goals and not necessarily, I've got to get up at 5:30. I've got to work out by 6. I have to finish my breakfast by 7. I have to get into work by 7:30. And the over-scheduled structure creates that anxiety and stress, I think.
That's a fear response too. So you were asking about fear? Right there. Anytime you're in the shoulda, woulda, coulda, you're in a fear conversation.
Right. But that's the challenge now. If I'm to say, how do I get better? And somebody says to me, well, all you have to do is this. I'm like, that seems to be the opposite. Right. So how do I apply excellence to my life? And to receive that information, that's where I sort of get my back up and say, oh, who are you to tell me that? Or now I have to enforce this structure on me, or I've got to take this magic pill, or
Right. Look,
it's
we're
tough.
all fellow entrepreneurs. And what do we have in common? We do not like authority.
No, exactly.
I haven't had a boss for 32 years.
Oh, my boss is a dick.
Never had a good one.
So that's, it is the nature of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I got a question for you though. Like in terms of like your experiences, with organizations, individuals. Do you have any stories you're really proud of where you've seen someone kind of come out of the weeds? And you don't have to name any names, but are there any examples where you've seen kind of real transformation in people?
Every day.
Every day.
They love what I do.
That's amazing.
Every day. This is conversation. Usually it takes a while to establish the trust and the rapport, because you can't go into this.
No.
This is a sacred, intimate conversation. And when it happens, it's really transformational, and it's really significant and important, and it's where I get my juice.
Have you ever had anyone really resist it, but then kind of come around eventually?
Everybody resists it.
Well, even if they kind of go, I love what you do, Dorothy, I want your services, they still resist, or?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, really? Okay.
Everybody resists. I mean, that is our human nature, to push back, to resist. Absolutely. So, and I can't figure out where the resistance comes from. All I can do is ask the questions about, what's getting it. Just the questions really naturally come. What's getting in the way?
So how do you get over that resistance? Because I'm thinking the same thing. I absolutely resist. I thought I was kind of unique and special, but obviously I'm not. But how do you get over that? How do you break through that resistance? Because if you start in a resistant space, your arms are crossed. I'm not open to hear, I assume. So how do you get through that?
Yeah, just really ask.
So for the person to help, it's about questions?
Well, there's a lot of questions, and there's a lot of conversations that go on up front in terms of any of these engagements and relationships. And it's really talking about this. And I think one of your other guests said the same thing. I'm like, exactly. And by the way, I really love all your guests. And it's like, wow, that was really a great point. But it's, do I have permission to tell you what I'm observing here? And do you really want to do this or not? And one of your guests asked the same question I ask is, you're going to want to fire me, because that's the ultimate resistance.
It sounds like a cult.
But it's true. It's what happens all the time. So if you do it up front and you manage those expectations and you have that conversation to say, how are we going to get through? Because every single client has wanted to fire me at some point in our relationship. And we usually hang out for about 4 years. So, they will want to fire me. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. We had a coach that actually said the opposite as well, is that coach would then fire clients.
Oh, I have too.
They've gotten to the end. This is where we're supposed to. Yeah.
I call it way sooner than I've ever have, because I've been in this business for a long time. I'm like, can we talk about whether this is working or not? And sometimes, it really needs a pause, actually. And what I say is, I just think you need some time to digest this and just work it through. And they do. That's just honoring where they are, and just let's not waste your energy, your time, your money, my time, and resources, and move on. It's just really nice to get to that place in your life where it's just like, okay, this may not be working, and can we call it? And I really think modeling that behavior is really important for our clients, because then they say, wow, look at how she just managed that. that's what I should do.
That's good. I think it's like you said, is not coming from a place of fear. You haven't got a fear of losing them as a client. You're in a position where you can go, hey, I don't think this is good. And it's kind of leading from the front, I guess.
Right.
The whole mindset.
It is. And this is all mindset. That's why this psychological development, which is different, by the way. I want to go back to that, to levels of consciousness. Levels of consciousness is just really where are you placing your awareness. So, we work with a lot of impact, purpose-driven organizations, those types of words. And COVID hits. Well, they're not going to sit at that fifth level of consciousness. Their awareness is back down into survival. Like, what does this mean to our business? How are we going to pay the rent? How are we going to make payroll? And these are really important practical things. So levels of consciousness is constantly moving depending on what is going on. It's just an awareness of how you can have these different perspectives and then just saying, from what perspective do I want to make that choice?
Oh, so it's not like rising up and hovering and staying there. It's like sometimes you do need to go down and kind of like deal with those difficult, be in that place of fear and deal with those emergent questions.
Absolutely.
But then you need to be able to go back up again to build that big long-term plan.
You got it.
Okay, cool. That was interesting because I didn't know whether you were just to the point where you were kind of like didn't involve yourself and weren't afraid of those things. But right. I guess that's not practical.
No, that's not practical. And I mean, there's going to be times that you're going to have to work a lot in your business.
Yeah,
you're going to be just just rolling up the sleeves and you're in it. And there's going to be times and you're going to be like, I really think I can just step back, get a different point of view of this, a different perspective.
Yeah.
So
I was also thinking it's like a black belt. When you finally get there, you've mastered your levels of consciousness, and then But you're right. So operating out of fear in certain situations absolutely makes sense, right? So COVID hits, all of a sudden the whole structure is changed, and I have to make sure the base components are done. So
that's right.
It becomes a privilege to be able to get to a higher state because the core elements have been taken care of.
That's right.
I'm not hungry. I've got shelter. I've got the core elements are taken care of.
Right, and you always need to be paying attention to it. Yeah. You need energy at all of these levels. You need some level. You need to make sure that you're not going to run out of cash. You need to make sure that people have a sense of alignment and that they feel like they belong and they know how to be in relationship with each other. And you need a certain level of professionalism and efficiency and effectiveness.
So now, knowing a little bit about us, as little as you do, where would you start?
Don't look at me.
Well, I think she's answered it just with a look. I would start with Rhys.
One of the gaps I noticed in all of these conversations that I thought could be maybe an interesting place for us to start, which really is consistent with how I think all these businesses should start, is really talking about the core, the energetic core is the two of you. So why did you start this business? Like, why is this important to you, and why is it important to your clients? So I would really start with your purpose, and you've been around the edge of it. You've been talking a little bit about impact, and I never fully really grasp why you guys are doing this. And then I would then go to these core values that can be shared. So that would be a question for you, because I feel like there's a deeper reason, and that was a sense I got in listening to the other podcasts, is nobody's actually asked you, why did you guys do this?
Well, I think that we've both got very different backgrounds. Sometimes they overlap and there's similarities, but my read on it, and you can feel free to correct me, is that we both wanted to make the kind of place where we both quite happy to turn up and do good work for good clients, and the energy that we have, like the kind of the attitude we have and the motivations are quite similar. We both wanted to take everything we'd learned, good and bad, and build something that we could then do great work, good clients, good team, and grow from there. My rule is, if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. That tends to be my approach to a lot of stuff that I do, and I think John's is similar. So I don't know, correct me if
yeah, it's a wonderful question, and I think from the first conversation that we had, that started the formation of Podstarter, our whys have evolved over that period. Part of it was to gravitate towards and build an environment that would be inclusive, supportive, embracing, fun, playful, all of these wonderful things from a cultural standpoint, which means we could be doing anything. Any business would still have those core cultural values for us. The podcasting space, why we're in it, there's a variety of elements to it. One is it was evergreen space. It was an opportunity to move into our blue ocean space that allows us to build something that nobody else was doing, that allowed us to sort of stroke our own ego saying, we know something that nobody else does. Let's go this space and we'll educate and share our knowledge. So there's an ego element to that. The third thing that we've sort of fallen into is the companies and the clients that we work with, that we give voice to sometimes unvoiced individuals, has been really rewarding as well. And so that purpose and that why of the organization has evolved. Why we're entrepreneurs is different than why we run a podcast agency, for example. You touched earlier on, we're easily to say we're uncoachable or unmanageable or entrepreneurs because we are individuals that like to go our own way. That said, we love building teams, wrap ourselves around this and have a united voice in a particular direction. So it's a complicated question for me to answer. I think you may have straighter routes to get to the answer, but I would sort of skirt around the issue of the why Podstarter exists, or why I'm a part of Podstarter, or why Rhys and I came together and say, let's launch the business.
I would say why is it important? And I feel like it's somewhere around to give voice to unheard voices, or you said something, that middle part was more in the area of why is this important?
Yeah, I struggle with that one because that's part of the purpose-led speak that allows us to say that we exist externally. We exist to be able to help organizations and individuals voice the unvoiced. So it's a wonderful. That to me is more of a branding exercise that we can position Podstarter as saying that. Why my psychological elements of being an entrepreneur? Very difficult to answer. I don't know the answer.
So
to
I'm
that.
talking about Podstarter. So let's just play with this.
Yeah.
So to give voice to the
No, so Podstarter, we could say in part exists to help individuals amplify their voice in a variety of different ways. We've talked about this as
But why is it important to amplify the voice, and what voices would you be amplifying?
It depends on whom we're speaking to. So if it is a corporate organization that is trying to share their story, it allows them to be able to use a medium in a way that nobody else would. If it's an individual that says, I'm an advocate for something, I need to build awareness for it, we can help amplify that voice. The why pivots from different organizations. We work with iHeartRadio, for example, or we work with Wondery that allows us to say, we need to be able to build content that resonates with an audience. The why pivots for them as well.
I don't know. Okay, you try, Rhys. I'm not satisfied with that answer
I think a why that has developed as we've gone along, though, as well, is that obviously there's masses and masses and masses of AI-generated content. And one of the things I love about what we do which kind of straddles all those different client profiles, is that we're creating authentic, conversational, or voice-led kind of content that I guess sometimes we call it organic content, which is confusing, but at the same time, it's a real differentiator from people leaning into like generating memes and graphics and text by mass. This is real people talking about how they feel about their expertise in a totally authentic way that is, you can fake it, I guess, but you probably shouldn't. So if you're looking to build a real world connection on those platforms that feels unmanipulated, is not being manipulated, is a kind of unmolested by AI in that sense, then we can kind of build that, I guess.
I've never heard that.
Well,
term.
I feel like that is really exciting, like to amplify the voices of real people telling their stories in a world that is going in an opposite direction, yet we're all craving that connection. So,
I did better than you, Jon.
No, definitely. You got a B. Jon,
So he didn't answer the question, though. He actually answered how.
Shh, that's the
No?
secret.
No, I know it's part of your secret. I love it. It's a secret sauce. You're asking the wrong question. Let me answer it this way. How do you do it? We actually, what is it? Organic, authentic conversations that are not molested by AI?
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
Well, it's true though.
Yeah.
It's to amplify those real people, real connections, telling their stories. And
Yeah.
I think that's what we're all craving. That's a human experience that we're all craving.
Yeah. And I think as well, like, it is good for us to remind that. And that has developed because AI was on the periphery like 5 years ago. And it's obviously become more and more relevant to what we do. So that makes a lot of sense. Is there something we like to do with guests as well is to come away with like one, you might have heard this from the episodes, a practical kind of takeaway that we can use or that listeners can use from your methodology, from your experience, from the kind of work that you do. Is there any kind of gift you can give us today that we can maybe change how we think and act tomorrow?
Weren't we just working on that?
Oh, no, definitely.
Wait, okay. Just to clarify, I would say you're at this stage of your business, I think it's very important that you articulate between the two of you your why and really get clear about why is it important. And then those 3, and I would only do 3 core values. Now, you have talked about creativity in different words. You've talked about excellence. So if you just even listen to this podcast, hey, let's play a game. Get your listeners
That'd be good.
to tell you what they think your 3 core values are based on this podcast.
I love other people's perspectives on our conversations. I often talk about, you think you're 3 different people. There's a person I think I am, there's a person you think I am, and then there's a person I kind of am. And that's the same thing, which is we may think these are our core values, but for any listener that's actually listened to all of our episodes, they're going to go, no, this is what we've heard your core values are. You've actually said these words, not just what you think. That's a great idea.
That'd be great.
It's really hard to figure this out on your own.
Oh, definitely.
Because it's muddy in there.
Yeah.
You know, like somebody asks you a question and then you get this hook. It's like, well, there's this and over here and up here and over there and maybe this one and history. And so sometimes it's very clarifying. And you could ask your clients too.
I think it's one of the reasons why I've been recording Rhys without him knowing, so that I can actually say, you said this, that you believe this is where you are. And he's like, oh, I see that I said that. And
So
you're right, John.
You knew I was on the porch last night, didn't you? With night vision goggles.
And that is the kind of the beginning part of the conscious business operating system. So we talk about traditional businesses start from the outside in. So competitive analysis, SWOT, risk assessment, blah, blah, blah. And then, maybe we have a business here. And that's not the orientation that we believe gets these to the place that most of us really have a deep desire to get to, which is a lot different than traditional business models, especially in small, medium-sized businesses where we're entrepreneurs, where we can innovate, lots of diversity and fun and all those things that we really crave. And so it's really the inside out is the purpose, your values, how do you make these conscious choices, and what is important to you in terms of your communications and your relationships. So that's what I would say where to start. It's the energetic core. It's what keeps you going. It's what gets you out of bed in the morning. And I think would be a really good start.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for your time and for being on Uncoachable.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the questions.
Thanks, Dorothy. The best place to find this podcast is wherever you find podcasts.
That's where I'd start.